Hi, and welcome to the Health Begins with Mom show. I am Dorit Balvanov, your host. On this podcast, I will share insights and interviews on health, parenting, and explore the question of what does it take to thrive as women, wives, and mothers. Now, let's get going with today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to the Health Begins with Mom show. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for sharing your most valued resource with me here, which is your time. I know that you have a million other things you can do instead of being here with me, so if you're here, thank you. If you're new to me and to this show, this is where we talk about the intersection between your health as a woman, your sacred work at home as a wife and mother, and how to tap into your life's work as a healer and creative in a way that feels aligned, authentic, and joyful. I believe that all mothers are healers and we can make the world a better place beginning with us, which is why this show is called Health Begins with Mom. And what's really, really cool is recently I've started noticing more and more women who are digging this show who are actually not moms yet, who are getting ready and setting themselves up for success and are preparing for this very desired stage of their life. And I think it's beautiful, it's wonderful. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, I was not that woman. So kudos to you. Today we are talking about a topic that has started to this topic is kind of near and dear to my heart because as you know, I am a retired pediatric nutritionist, and that means that I was years ago I was working and supporting parents of picky eaters. I was helping families to help their children to eat healthier and really kind of be more successful with regards to eating and really heal their relationship with food. And so now that I have transitioned to supporting more of the parents, and my work is mostly working with the mom, with the woman, because I believe in the power of women. I believe in the power of mothers. I believe that as mothers, we are the ones who create the ecosystem of our homes. And so today's topic is we're going to be talking about a condition that is called orthorexia. And I'm going to explain what that means. I think in the mainstream world, it is also known as being maybe a version of being the food police when it comes to, eating and feeding and, taking care of our families. And so this is our topic for today. And I also wanted to share my own experience of how being an orthorexic mom or, mom who is a recovering food police, and how that behavior really wounded my relationship with my daughter and also her relationship with food. And I take full responsibility for it. And I used to blame myself a lot for it. Believe me, it was definitely a journey. But now I'm at the point where I'm kind of owning my own side of the story. I take full responsibility, but I'm also allowing my daughter to have her own side of it, right? Like there is a reason why this happened. There is a reason why, I am her mom and why I was and I am the way I am and she is the way she is. And so this is a process of co-creation and we are really growing and evolving and healing together. So let's dive into this. By the way, before I dive deep into the show, if I mention any links or any resources today, all of those could be found over at my website. So it's www.healthbeginswithmom.com/EP-98. So that's the number of the episode for today, episode number 98, and you can find it over at my website if you need any resources, links, or anything like that, or if you want to listen to this episode over at my website. All right, so let's dive in. So first and foremost, let's define orthorexia, okay? So the definition, and I mean, this is my definition, it's not on Wikipedia or anything like that, because the definitions there are pretty complex. But what the way I define it is basically it's an obsession with healthy eating. So the way I used to be is kind of being very, very obsessed and rigid with my food choices, putting too much, a lot of my financial resources into, organic food and healthy food and the quality of the food. And it has to be that food and from that store. And you're kind of like so rigid and really trying to control the entire situation of food because you believe in food and you know that healthy eating is important. So, so when I say orthorexia, what might be kind of coming up for you in your memory, maybe you've heard the term anorexia. So that is not what I'm talking about today. Anorexia is basically when you are depriving yourself of food. It is a very serious eating disorder. Orthorexia is also an eating disorder, and it depends, right? It has like a range or maybe a scale. And of course, I don't believe that I was kind of like on the worst case. I wasn't the worst case. I'm not an example of the worst case of orthorexia, but I was probably somewhere in the middle. So unlike anorexia, which is really characterized by an obsession with the quantity of food eaten in fear of weight gain and other issues, body image issues and really being kind of subscribed into the fat phobia and diet culture and all of that. Orthorexia is characterized by an obsession with the quality of food, right? So we're not talking about the quantity of food, which is what anorexia is all about. We are talking about orthorexia, which is the quality of the food, right? And again, it's the obsession, right? So of course, there's nothing wrong with eating healthy, except when it is when there are certain behaviors that are happening and they really interfere with a good quality of living and also your relationships and the way and it just doesn't feel good. I remember, yes, I was right. At the end of the day, I was the adult, and when I would put my legs, like I would just stand my ground, and I would kind of insist on having my way. Like, this is what we're gonna do. This is the food that is allowed. This is the food that is not allowed. And so that kind of behaviors, especially when you're living in a family, right? And you have little kids and you have your spouse there, and everybody has their own preferences, and they also deserve their own style and their own desires and their own they have their own intuitive process to eating, right? And so that is when this becomes really kind of icky and it doesn't feel good in your body. It's like, yes, you're right, but then you feel like it's wrong. Like it's not the right way to approach the situation, right? You become too rigid, and I remember myself, sometimes I wouldn't even recognize myself. Like, why am I behaving in this manner? It's not healthy, right? So all of those things could be signs that that this condition is something that you might be having as well. So like I said, there is nothing wrong with eating healthy. I mean, that's what I teach, that's what I preach, that's what I coach my clients to do. I show them how. And of course, the piece that was missing for me at the time was the sustainability, the making food adaptable, like the style of the eating, to make it more adaptable to my lifestyle so that it fits me and not the other way. Because I felt like I am the one who has to fit myself into the dogma of eating healthy. So let's walk through some examples or some signs that you might have orthorexia, or you might be feeling like you are being depleted by being the food police. So the first thing is when a lot of your time is focused on your diet, that it keeps you from other activities, like, for example, actually living your life, right? You are so consumed with what to eat, when to eat, how much of it to eat, the quality of it, where am I going to buy it, do they have it, do they not have it, oh, maybe I have to, if this health food doesn't have it, maybe I should go to this health food store, and so a lot of your time and energy is revolving around food. So this is sign number one. Another thing is that you feel, let's say, for example, if you are and when you are deviating from your chosen diet, right, you get this feeling of self-hatred and self-loathing and guilt, immense guilt that you have sinned, that you have done something that is so wrong. Systemically, you have done the wrong thing, and now you have to pay the price. It's that kind of a very heavy feeling, and again, that feeling sucks the life out of us, right? I hope you can relate, and I think as a parent you can relate, because if it's not orthorexia, then there are a million things that stay in our head, and they're kind of in a loop, right? In terms of our thoughts, and these thoughts, when they're not stopped and we don't know how to mother and nurture ourselves and kind of like calm our nervous system down, and it just loops and it never stops, and we end up feeling very, very bad about ourselves and about the situation. And when we are lacking energy, remember that we have very little energy to begin with, right? No, I'm not going to say very little. We have a certain amount of energy to begin with. Like, it's not unlimited. And so if the very limited energy that you do have, if that energy is spent unwisely, then it makes sense that your relationship and your parenting and your work and all the pieces of your life will suffer, right? Because it's really difficult to thrive in the midst of it all. So this is the second thing. The third thing is that your diet contributes to social isolation, and that is a huge thing. I remember for myself, I would abstain from social events because they didn't serve healthy food. And I wouldn't allow my children in the beginning. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this mistake. But again, this rigidity and the doing things my way and the right way, I wouldn't allow them to participate in birthday parties or, events for children, because I knew that they're going to serve pizza and they're going to serve fried food and chips and all of that stuff. And I didn't want my kids to be exposed to that garbage. Little did I know that I was basically depriving my children from from just being social and being kids. And I remember I was so proud of myself that I would send the healthiest of lunches. And I even once, at some point, I even got a prize from the school. It makes me giggle when I remember this. But actually, when my first daughter was in SK, I think it was senior kindergarten, they gave her an award for healthy eating because her lunches were the best at school. And so yeah, in that sense, it was good. It was good. But I also know that that obsession created a lot of negative things in our home, and I'm gonna explain a little bit later how we're doing things today, and how we're kind of keeping the balance and making sure that everybody's happy and getting a leeway here and there. So that's the third point. If you feel like your diet is contributing to social isolation. By the way, if you have older children, if you have teenagers, pay attention to their behavior around food as well, because I'm not going to be It doesn't surprise me that so many girls today, especially if they're exposed to beauty magazines and the media and TV and social media and all that, that they would be consumed with this diet culture. And really, diet culture, it perpetuates the idea that women will be happier if they are smaller, right? And you know that millions of dollars are poured into advertising products for weight loss, different juice cleanses and detox peels and guilt-free foods, right? You see it everywhere. Guilt-free snacks. Eat this and you don't have to feel, and you're not going to feel guilty. Diet culture, it really skews people's self-perception. And I see it. I see it in myself, and I see it in my clients too, that no matter how smart or kind you are, first and foremost, what matters is to be attractive and skinny. Like, this is beyond anything else. And that is such a, it's like I said, right? It skews your self-perception. It skews the reality. It puts all the focus on being attractive and skinny and beautiful, and it really starts. It begins from a very young age. I'm looking at our kids and our girls, and we have 3, and it's all around us, and we definitely do this too. The first thing they would say is like, "Oh my gosh, you're so pretty, and look at that dress, and you're so cute, and you're so cute," right? This is all we tell them. So when you have that awareness, really, it's important to pay attention and be intentional with our comments and our compliments and the way we help them to perceive themselves, right? Along with, of course, minimizing exposure to magazines and TV and all of that stuff as much as you can. But this is what diet culture is all about, and it also makes you feel like being fat is bad. It's a bad thing, right? And as a result, you eventually adjust your eating to become thinner. So I've seen many clients, also clients of teenagers who say that they put themselves through really rigid diets. They deprive themselves of food, and they basically put themselves on an eating style or an eating regimen that they have seen somewhere or heard somewhere or read about somewhere, and it helped that celebrity to lose that weight, and so I'm gonna do this too, and then you stick to it. But it's really difficult to do because you have to remember, eating is a very emotional experience, right? Eating, we all eat emotionally, and so it is super important to be mindful about what is under this choice of food. Are you reaching to your fridge because you're hungry? Are you really hungry? Or is it because you have some kind of a suppressed emotion, you're tired, you're exhausted, and that's kind of the eating is going to be a way to numb that feeling, right? So this is what diet culture is all about. I could talk forever about diet culture, and I probably will bring somebody who is an expert with regards to intuitive eating and diet culture and all of that stuff. But for now, for our conversation today, this is what you need to know. So let's recap. So the first thing is how do you know that you have that destructive behavior like orthorexia or being the food police, or just and when this is really disruptive to your life. So number one, when a lot of your time is focused on your diet, that it keeps you from other activities. Number two is when you deviate from your chosen diet, it leads you to feelings of self-hatred and guilt and self-loathing and immense shame. Number three is when your diet contributes to social isolation. Excuse me. And then the fourth thing is you use your eating obsession to avoid other issues in your life. This becomes the absolute focus of your life. And of course, I remember myself, I would have really good justifications for it, right? It's a great kind of healthy way to it's like you can say that it's a healthier way to suppress deeper things that need attention, right? Because what do you mean? Eating healthy is so important. Everybody's talking about it. Look at the books. Look at the amount of books I've read about health, and look at the how many podcasts there are out there, and all the health establishments. Like, I want to be healthy. It's all about health, right? I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm not smoking weed. I'm not doing drugs. So I'm healthy. Like, what's wrong with being healthy, right? This is how we kind of justify it to ourselves. And then the fifth thing is when your self-esteem is related to how perfectly you follow your pure diet. I love this word because this style of eating, it's really around purity and really around having kind of like the sense of cleanliness. Like, it really is important for you to be pure and clean. So much so that when you deviate, like I said, from your diet, you almost feel the sense of like you're dirty, like you're not clean. Okay, so this is where it becomes a real serious psychological and even psychiatric food disorder, like a condition, right? So pay attention if this is happening. Number 6 is you never feel like you are eating, like what you're eating is pure enough. Like, it's not good enough. It's never good enough. You could do better, right? So I remember myself, I would eat a salad and let's say I didn't have, my Himalayan sea salt. So I would use, the regular table salt. And then while eating that food, you already have that kind of like a negative feeling, and you ingest and you digest the food. And when you swallow, it's kind of like, it's like this mix of emotions of like, yes, but I'm eating kale and I'm eating spinach and I'm, it is a, good quality food and it's all organic, but this sea salt, it's gonna, it's a bad quality and it's gonna do bad things to me, and it has it has bad things in it, and I don't want to expose myself to it, right? So it's kind of like when you are at this place of needing to substitute with less good ingredients, then these emotions arise for you. So something to think about also. And also, by the way, all of those things, they kind of like hijacked in terms of importance and urgency when you're raising a child, right? Because when you're on your own and you're single, then yes, of course, it's also something that is important to look at, but you don't yet have anybody who is dependent on you. But when you have a child who is 100% dependent on you, and they look up to you, they look to you to guide them and lead them, but you yourself are struggling, then it makes everything really, really difficult and really kind of dysfunctional. Okay, point number 7, I think it's 7. It's when you omit foods that you once enjoyed in order to eat the right kind of foods. So I remember an example of this. I love chips. Like chips, this is something that I could never heal from. I just love chips. I love the crunch. I love the saltiness. So in the beginning, I would try to substitute them with the healthier version that costs like 3 times more. By the way, forget about the financial commitments or the bills, the resources, like our money. We actually had to pay more money because of my obsession with food, and it was such a I don't know, now that I look back, it was just unjustified, right? Like if I were just a little bit more educated and a little bit more relaxed and just understand more about what is going on for me and why I was so obsessed and why I had that need to control the food, that was the real, that was the root cause. The symptom was really the obsession with food, but the root cause was for me that I was just totally disconnected from myself, and I just didn't feel like I like I'm living the like I'm living up to my potential. Like I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't fulfilled. I was isolated. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel joyful. And my entire like mothering, in being like taking care of these little people became my focus, and I was determined to be the good mom, and all of my energy was geared towards that. And that is how it was that's how it was projected to me. But anyways, I was talking about the chips. So so I remember, so chips was always something that I enjoy. I mean, I don't eat it every day, but when we watch a movie, or when we let's say when we go camping, or when we just have a good time together as a family, we used to have chips around. And so I remember that when that period of my life that I was so rigid with food, I would not buy chips intentionally. And since I was the one responsible for grocery shopping, I could do that. But every time I would not have the chips, I would miss it so much. And I would it was like almost, it's like so I have chosen not to eat them, but I also felt guilty, and I felt this immense sense of like just longing and like I miss it, right? So it was like a very weird cocktail of emotions at that time of my life that just kind of like again, like I said, I had to come to terms with the fact that it was my responsibility to find the root cause of why all of this is happening. All right, next thing is, so when others around you don't have strict eating rules, you feel critical towards them. Ooh, that's a biggie one for me. Obviously, you judge and you reject and you justify and you get into food fights and into not food fights, into like philosophical debates with people about why your eating style is the best, and why organic is the best, and why avoiding this and that is better for you, and how GMOs is unhealthy, and how when you're eating pesticides and herbicides and all of that stuff, you are in a higher chance of cancer, and how, oh my gosh, I remember I would get into so many of these arguments only. And you know what? Sometimes I would actually win those fights. I would actually win because I was so educated. I was so I would show, I would send people links to studies, and I would even give them books. So I did leave this argument feeling really kind of satisfied, like I won, but not realizing that at the end of the day, it really isolated me from people. Like, people didn't want to be around me, because nobody wants to argue, and nobody cares, and what people want is just to come together and have a good time and connect. And so this is another sign and signal that that there is this kind of a problem, and it needs to be looked at. Another thing is when you blame your increasing restriction of food on food allergies without having received a medical diagnosis. I would self-diagnose myself. I would say that I have, I'm not producing enough enzymes, and I have bloating issues, and I probably have a thyroid issue. I probably have something. I used to say I probably have something with my stomach. I probably don't have enough digestive juices. Like, I would kind of self-diagnose myself just to justify the reason why I am restricting myself, or why I'm eating or not eating certain foods. So yes, this is another thing that needs to be looked at. And then the last thing is when you have increased the number of supplements or herbal remedies that you consume. This is something that I see across the board with all of my clients. Most of my clients are people who've been for years trying to really look at, really take care of themselves. It's just that they're struggling with finding the way, a sustainable way, or an easier way, a more flowy way, a way that works with their life as opposed to against it, right? And as a result, I see a lot of them are kind of like taking a million different supplements. I personally wasn't that. I didn't have that kind of behavior. I used to do is I used to be obsessed with probiotics and digestive enzymes. I still am. It's not obsession. It's not an obsession anymore. I'm just now I say that I'm diligent. And because I've noticed that how, when I don't take them, then my digestive system and my entire, how I feel after I eat, it is affected by, and I see the difference, like when I'm on it and not and off it. So it's no longer an obsession. Now it's diligence. But in the past, I had to take it. What do you mean? Like, and I would actually remember. I would make a point of remembering to take those supplements. And I remember also there was a time in my life when I would set alarms on my phone to remember to take supplements before I eat. Like I'm telling you, it was crazy. And throughout this whole time, obviously, my children were watching me and they're seeing me and they see this obsession, right? And so it doesn't surprise me that at some point, like, for example, one of my daughters she was so particular about the way she puts her shoes away, or the way she she wears her pants. Or, for example, there was a time where she was just so particular with like not leaving the house without a skirt. Like, she couldn't leave the house with pants because she felt like it's not modest enough. And modesty is definitely something that we value, in our household. However, it was kind of like the reasoning behind it, when I would ask her in question, it was kind of delusional and kind of crazy. And I had to be really honest with myself and kind of admit that this pattern of behavior is something that they have kind of learned from me, because yes, eating healthy is important and all that, but a lot of the ways I was behaving wasn't, and it didn't make sense, and I would like get angry and I would lose control and I would be so snappy and I would yell and I would insist for the dishes to put away in this way, and I would insist on other things around the kitchen to be done a certain way, and you have to do it at this time. And like, it was crazy. I'm telling you, I am totally a recovering control freak. And my kids, they grew up through this, and thank goodness that I kind of, I don't know, I guess I started, and I've realized it, and I started healing when my kids were relatively young. But still, I do feel how they have been wounded by it, and definitely it is something that that's why in the title of this podcast I said, and how we're healing from it, because I feel like it's never going to be, this journey is never going to be over. It's something that we will always be working on as long as we still live together and we kind of evolve together. So these are the signs that you might have something like orthorexia, being super puritan and super pure and really having this obsession with healthy food. Also, maybe you can relate to being the food police around the house and really being in everybody's plates and really kind of like needing to control the food situation around the house. So these are the signs. So maybe it feels like it's silly to you, but actually it is a serious condition, and also it affects children. So in a minute, I will, like I said, I will share my own experiences and how this affected my daughters. But before I do, I wanted to share this quote that I found online, and the link will be in the show notes, from a recent newspaper article. And it goes like this. City kids as young as 6 are going on juice cleanses, starving themselves with the blessing of their food-obsessed moms. The youngsters say they want to rid their bodies of toxins while losing weight by replacing meals with kale and lemon juice. One company even markets liquid extracts to children ages 2 to 12 to be paired with diets of raw food. But this could stunt kids' growth. So this is from the New York Post. Like, guys, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. We are crossing the boundary. We are crossing the boundaries. This feeling that we have as mothers, the feeling of being disconnected from ourselves, not understanding our female design, not understanding how we're built, how we're created, how we're supposed to eat, exercise, socialize, and just be in, how to interact with life through, through the understanding of yourself as a woman. All of this affects the bottom line. The bottom line. I say this in air quotes, right? The way we show up in our marriage, in our parenting, with our work, with our relationships, in our friendships, just the way we interact and engage with life. So this has to stop. This is crazy. I cannot imagine. Thank goodness that I haven't reached to that point where I am. When my kids had to say that they are cleaning their bodies of toxins, although I have to be totally honest with you, we do have a family member, I'm not going to say who it is, but somebody who is very near and dear to us, who is let's say a food puritan. And she is very much in favor of enemas and cleansing and fasting. And to the point that I will never forget this. She told me at some point that the reason we get that all of the diseases and the illnesses and all the how should I say it? The reasons why we don't feel good and why we get sick is because of how did she say? Parasites. Oh, that's the word. Parasites and bacteria that comes from the earth. And so who brings that to our homes? It's our kids. And so that immediately startled me. And I'm like, no, you have to stop. What you're saying is that children have to stop being kids, and that is not right. That's crazy. That is complete BS. I am not willing to stop my kid's life or to hinder the growth just so that I avoid parasites. It's like giving too much of a weight to the physical component of health, right, of the body, and completely ignoring the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of it, right? So it's not, and what I believe in is viewing the human body as the human being as a holistic organism, as opposed to just kind of separating it into different into different areas. So that is a completely something that I really strongly disagree with. And this person did say to my kids that the reason they get sick, or the reason they have a belly that is starting to come out or to be noticed, is that because they have parasites. And so I'm so thankful that this happened when I was actually there. So I immediately stopped and I said, thank you so much for your opinion, but this is wrong. Girls, this is not true. And I kind of like dissolved the charge around this conversation. But this is what happens, right? When we are not educated, when we don't know how to advocate for ourselves and for our families, then this kind of boundary can be crossed. And a lot of situations where children feel like, especially girls I find are very sensitive to this stuff. They start viewing themselves and their bodies as dirty and disgusting, and it creates a lot of unnecessary emotional and mental issues. So that is why this entire conversation about orthorexia and being the food police and really controlling food, it's just it needs to be looked at with, yes, I understand it requires courage and it requires vulnerability, because you will have to admit that you've been kind of you were wrong. It requires courage and it requires vulnerability and it requires admitting that I was wrong. Show me how can I change, and how can I just shift this around. And it's totally possible, guys. I promise you that if you just learned how to take care of yourself as a woman, as a female, and you started to tap into your feminine current and learn to live with the energies of the 4 phases, your life, I'm telling you, your life will change. It is life-changing. It is so profound, and I wish more and more women knew about this, and of course pass this on to the next generation, so that we avoid these mental and physical and emotional problems and ailments and imbalances, and really I feel like this is a true it's not the right way to use our energies, our human potential. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to share a little bit of my own story. I think, I kind of shared already a lot of it here, but the process for me, really how I developed orthorexia, it really began for me when I became a mom. Because I was so motivated to be a good mom, or the mom who does the right thing, I was literally obsessed with feeding my children the best quality of foods possible. Like, in my house, in my situation, in my case, you will never see me feeding my kids with cereal. You will never see me you will never see me feed my kids non-organic blueberries or non-organic apples. Oh, God forbid. So, and this really became, like I said, destructive when my second child was born, because that's when I became really fascinated with nutrition and food and all that. This concept that we are what we eat and our kids are what we cook, it really resonated with me, and I decided to become a nutritionist, right? So even you see how, and I'm so happy that I did this. I've learned so much through my training as a nutritionist. So I went to school for 2 years and I became a registered holistic nutritionist. Now, this is where the line between what's normal and not normal was a bit of skewed for me. So for 2 years, I've been immersed in a place that was concentrated solely on food and food quality and what kind of damage eating unhealthily can cause. And I was horrified, not so much for myself, but more for my kids. Like, I didn't want them to eat pesticides and herbicides and various chemicals, food colorings, hormone disruptive foods like GMO soy and all that. Everything had to be organic, and I would even get really angry when my husband bought food from the regular supermarket. Like, it wasn't a healthy behavior. And the point where I had to realize that I have been showing up kind of delusionally and not healthy, and that behavior wasn't healthy. It was when we started having a lot of glitches in terms of our relationships. So there was a lot of yelling, a lot of fighting, a lot of disagreements, a lot of even, I hate to admit it, but spanking. It was just not healthy, and it didn't feel good. And as someone who really wanted to have a healthy home and to raise a healthy family, it was just, I had to be really honest with myself. And I really thank my husband for this. Actually, he deserves the credit that he would ask me, like, are you proud of yourself? Are you proud of what's happening and how, and how and where all of this is going? And I wasn't. I had to admit that I wasn't, but I didn't know the source. And so and I shared this many times on the podcast, as I started working with a coach, I've discovered through, the process of inquiry and journaling and really becoming silent and quiet with myself, that whenever we feel like we need to control somebody else outside of us, that is a sign that there is some kind of imbalance inside of ourselves. In terms of our soul, maybe, there is some kind of a soul aching that, is affecting how we feel in our lives. And as moms, it's really easy to kind of project our insecurities and sense of, not happiness to our kids, right? Because, we love them so much and we want the very best for them. And so we put them on a pedestal and we make it all about them. And I do this for you. And how dare you? And how is it that you don't appreciate it? And all of that stuff, right? And so this is where you really have to be honest with yourself and acknowledge and admit that this, you are looking for something that is outside of yourself to feel good about who you are. So that was number one for me. And then the second thing was really starting to let go and surrender, and educating myself even more about food. And that's where I started to practice the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 and intuitive eating, and just really in general allowing the food dogma to go away. I still do as much as I can in terms of buying, organic and just in general offering healthy food to my family. But now I just kind of like the rigidity is less and less an issue for me. I practice the mantra, less control, more magic. Less control, more magic. And that is really, really helpful to me. It's a reminder really to me that whenever I'm becoming too obsessive, too compulsive, and too rigid with regards to anything really in my life, but in particular, this area, for me, it's even extra difficult because that's what I do for a living, right? It's not something that I can stop and kind of switch to a different thing. My kids see me coaching women and they hear me talk about health and all the time. And I have so many books about health, and I listen to so many podcasts. This is it's such a major part of my life. It's because I personally myself, it's a topic that is interesting to me, and I do this work because I need it, because I myself require help in this area, right? So which is why I'm really so passionate about it. So but really just kind of allowing things to flow more naturally, less rigidly. Whenever there are sales on some organic products, I'll get them. If there are no sales, I'll try to not buy them. But if my kids really want, and if my husband insists and he wants to buy something, then he does. And if I see that it's too much and they're exaggerating, then I'll make a comment. But more often than not, I'll just, participate in the feast and I'll eat some of the chips, the popcorn, and, maybe even some marshmallows sometimes. And really, what I want you to get away from this show today is really to remember that life is not meant to be lived rigidly. Life is meant to be lived in a way that is flowy, in a way that is airy, in a way that feels good, right? And whenever you feel in your life that something is kind of restricted, when the energy is not flowing, then that means that this area has a lot of resistance for some reason, and it's something to look at, right? Now, again, I don't want you to be left with feeling, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I suck, No, please. I want you to know that, first of all, I do have lots of compassion and empathy for you because I've been there. And I know how it feels to kind of feel really alone in this struggle. So I 100% want to reassure you, you're not alone. I shared today my own struggle, and maybe my struggle is not going to look exactly the way it looks for you, but still, it is, it could be a variation of, of the same thing. And so what I want you to remember is that there are people in the world who can help. We are not meant to do this alone. We are not meant to figure things out on our own. Just picture a library for a second, okay? The amount, it has thousands of books written on any topic that you can imagine, right? Any topic that you can imagine. Imagine you had to figure things out on your own for every topic in the world. That would be crazy. It's such an unproductive and unsustainable way to live. People from centuries ago had problems. They wrote books about it, and it's available for us, right? So please don't feel alone. If there is something that is really, really nagging and it's kind of stopping you from living your best life, then just reach out, start searching, maybe Google it, maybe reach out to me, maybe find somebody on Instagram, maybe connect with locally with moms who are also, are eating healthy and are kind of subscribed into the same dogma, and they might be struggling with the same problems and issues, and maybe you can kind of feed off of each other and nourish each other in the same way. So this is what I want you to live today with. I want you to remember that you're not alone, and this is something that can be treated. It can be changed. It's really a matter of making a decision and then just taking consistent action, even if it's small actions, over a consistent period of time that will slowly but surely help you to move away and evolve. All right, so this is what I have for you today. I hope this is helpful for you. Before I let you go, I'd like to remind you to please, if you like this show, please leave a rating and or review for the show. Now, by the way, I just learned this, that if you are outside of the US, I can't see your ratings and reviews. So if you do leave a rating or a review for this show, for this podcast, please take a snapshot of it and share it with me either on Instagram or on Facebook, or even send it to me to my email. So my email is dorit@healthbeginswithmom.com. You can find me on Instagram @healthbeginswithmom. On Facebook, I'm dorit@healthbeginswithmom. I'm everywhere. So as always, thank you so much for spending the time with me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for digging the show and sharing it. If this is something that you think, that you feel that other mothers in your community can benefit from, please share it. Share it on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, even through your email. And this is the biggest appreciation that I can have from you. or you can have from me. So thank you, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Health Begins with Mom show. I love hearing from you, so please post your comments and questions over at healthbeginswithmom.com/podcast. If you love the show, please share it on social media and in your real life with other moms who might enjoy this content. And if you have a burning question or topic you'd like me to hit on the show, just drop me a line at dorit@healthbeginswithmom.com. And if you love this show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Much love and many blessings.